Hello guys, welcome to my channel Code Doctor. I am Saurabh Saxena, working as a full stack developer at Booking.com in Amsterdam. In today's video, we are going to see how you can be a successful web developer from scratch. I'm assuming that you don't have any pre-experience working with web development. So I have prepared a roadmap for you in order to learn web development and also to be successful, and what are the key practices and strategies that you need to follow along. So, giving my background, I have nearly 8 years experience in web development. I've been worked with nearly 200 projects out there. So if I say 200 projects, that means 50 projects were my company projects, and nearly 50 projects were of my hobby projects, and then 100 projects I help students and developers on different platforms like CodeMentor, Hackends, or Shack. So before starting this video, I want to tell you this channel I made to help the college graduates who are in Tier 2 and Tier 3 colleges, especially from the developing countries. Now, if you find this video or if you find this information helpful in the last, please like this video, and if you follow me along in this journey, please subscribe. So let's get started. Let me give you a summary of this entire video. So what are the key points we are going to discuss? The first is the development environment. So what's the right development environment for a developer to work on anything related to web development? The second is the learning roadmap. How you can learn the key technologies of web development step by step, and what are the key resources that you need to follow. The third is how you can polish your skills continuously. What are the key practices that you should follow in order to polish your skills and what you've learned, right? How you can keep improving your skills along the way. Fourth is how it's a secret. There is a secret tip which is like help others to get help yourself. I'll be talking about more in detail when I will be discussing this. And the last one is how you can keep in touch, or how you can how you should keep evolving with the new trends and technologies, and how you should keep up to date with those, right? And in the last, I'll be talking about how you can monetize your skill set once you are a little bit expert in these technologies. How you can monetize your skills and how I did, and how much you can make money out of it. Okay, so the first one is development environment. What is the right development environment that a developer should have? So let's start with the operating system. So you have Windows, you have Mac OS, Unix-based system, and then you have a Linux. So there are three options available out there. So which one you should choose? So if you're using Windows, I think please get rid of it. There are multiple reasons to it. First of all, if you're working on a technology, let's say MySQL on Windows, and you're working on MySQL on Linux, the open source community who are working on MySQL on Linux as compared to Windows is big, right? So if you have any issues which you face while working on Windows, there's less number of people who can help you with compared to working on a technology on Linux, right? So, and Windows also, you don't have a learning curve while working on Windows in a sense compared to Linux or Mac OS, because when you work on Linux and Mac OS, you learn an additional thing which is shell scripting, or you can say shell commands. So shell commands not only actually nurture as your developer, but also help you to get things fast. Let's say whether it is an opening of file, whether it is so you have different commands like sed, awk, grep, find, right? And there is like permissions related like chown, chmod, right? So these commands will really help you to make you smarter, right? In Windows, you actually do most of the things by interactively, right? So I want to recommend you to don't use Windows. If you are in college, right, try to use Ubuntu based system, because you have something called a workspace in Mac OS, and even now Windows has come up with, but I think the more efficient is the Linux and the Mac OS one, right? So you can have multiple workspaces. When you're working on a terminal, you can open it one workspace. When you're working on a browser, you can open it another one. And when you have some other monitoring tools, you can open another workspace. So It's like you can do the multitasking very easily compared to that on Windows, right? So my recommendation, if you're using Windows, don't use that. Please uninstall and have Ubuntu in place, or use Mac OS. Now, the second thing in development environment is editor. So there are multiple options available out there. So it depends on a personal choice. A lot of people recommended VS Code and IntelliJ. Both are good. It depends on your personal preferences. So what I feel, if you're starting with initially like web development, use Sublime. And most of the people, they just use the default Sublime. But there is a way that you can optimize or you can actually increase the usability for yourself, for your development in Sublime as well, right? So I have shared a link in the video description. Please check it out, how you can customize the Sublime in order to be better usability for you to develop and debug things faster. Similarly, VS Code is also a good editor out there. I think that also you can try out. So I have in the description, I have shared few links related to IntelliJ, VS Code and Sublime. Whichever you feel, you can use that. So this is the second one. So in development environment, first is operating system, second is editor, and then is your terminal. Try to optimize your terminal, right, for the usage. I have shared a video in video description, one more link for the terminal optimization. So let's say you're working on a project, right? Now you need to know how you can navigate inside projects faster, how you can search, how you can do recursive search for different files and folders. So there are different customization which you can make in order to optimize your terminal for your usage. So please check it out. So once you have these three things ready, you have your operating system, you get rid of Windows, you have Linux and Mac OS, and then you have editor perfectly set, maybe let's say Sublime, and then you have a terminal. Now from here you start learning web development. So let's go through the next one. So once you have your development environment ready, you have your operating system, you have your favorite editor, and you have your customized terminal for your usage. Now the second is learning roadmap. So the way I'm mentioning the technologies, please try to follow the same order, and I'll be also sharing the timeline that you need to spend if you're starting from scratch. So first is HTML. HTML is a markup language for the web pages. In order to learn web development, there is one thing is very important, which is compared to learning any other thing, is you have to learn by doing, right? So when you try to learn something, try to execute on the system, right? So when you start with HTML, so there are two parts of it. One is the warm-up. So when you do the warm-up, you start with Codeacademy. Codeacademy has a platform where you can interactively do some exercises when you learn any theory related to a specific piece of technology. So first spend nearly a week on learning HTML from Codeacademy. So once you know the basics, you have a little bit confidence, then please sign up on Pluralsight. Pluralsight is one of the best resources on internet out there. So there are three sections: beginner, intermediate, and advanced, right? To start this, so you can invest like nearly 3-4 days on the beginner and then move to intermediate and then advanced. So I think overall 15 days are enough to learn HTML, right? Second is CSS. So CSS is used to style your HTML elements. So a good resource for CSS is pretty same. You start with warm-up from Codeacademy, and then after spending around a week, you jump to Pluralsight. And Pluralsight also has three sections here: beginner, intermediate, and advanced. You spend nearly overall 15 days, including Codeacademy and Pluralsight. But one thing is very important when you do the CSS: try to execute on your system in parallel, right? So the development should, when you're learning CSS, try to do each and everything right on your system. Otherwise, you will not be able to grasp a lot of concepts, and there will be some missing gaps. So that's how like HTML and CSS you can learn. Once you have basic understanding, or you can say like advanced, or maybe are you a bit of expert in both of these, then you start with JavaScript. JavaScript, one of the favorite book of mine is Eloquent. Eloquent is a Bible for JavaScript developers. You have to start from out there. So it's an online ebook. You can easily go through all the contents, try to execute the code even in the browser itself, and you will be having the strong foundation of JavaScript. So once you go through the Eloquent, it will take you around 12 to 15 days to understand each and every concepts. They have given a beautiful explanation of all the complicated concepts in JavaScript, like higher order functions, callbacks, closure. So start from Eloquent for JavaScript. Once you have basic understanding from Eloquent, the next is you can start on Pluralsight. Right? So Pluralsight has again 3 sections here. You have beginner, you have intermediate, and advanced. Right? So spend nearly 15 days to learn JavaScript from there. Now, once you have basic understanding of, or maybe you can have a complete understanding of JavaScript, then there is a YouTube channel called JavaScript 30 where you can learn to build 30 different projects. So I recommend that channel. So I think the 3 things is pretty important. The first is Eloquent. So no Codeacademy here. Eloquent is actually pretty good, and it also has a learn by doing exercises in between. Then you go for to Pluralsight, and after that is JavaScript 30. So now I think overall you will spend nearly 45 to 50 days just to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now you have a strong foundation of all of those. Now what are the resources that you should follow along in, let's say, when you know all those things, but every day you want to learn something new or maybe some concepts on JavaScript? What should be the helper reference for you? So developer.google.com/web has wonderful resources for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Similarly, Mozilla resource. So Mozilla official documentation is pretty good. So these are the helper docs that you should have for the first point of reference. Why is that? Because these are the official documentation which is coming from Google and also from Mozilla, which deriving the open source community of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript globally. So now you know HTML, you know CSS, you know JavaScript pretty well, and let's say you have to spend nearly 2 months to understand, or maybe you have a practical understanding of all 3 technologies. Okay. So before moving to the next, there is one more thing I forgot, which is high performance in JavaScript. There is an ebook out there. It has nearly 200 pages. You can finish in 1 day or maybe 2 days max. It talk about how you can render the DOM efficiently, like how the React or Vue.js come into the picture. What they do behind the scenes is actually mentioning there in terms of rendering the DOM, or how efficiently you can render JavaScript on the client side. And there are some programming concepts which you need, programming paradigms which you need to follow in JavaScript in order to make sure your code execute faster. So that's very interesting book. You should also check that out. So once you are done with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript with different resources, let's say for 2 months, then you move to the React.js part of it. So React.js is a framework built by Facebook in order to build the complex UIs. So for React.js, I don't recommend any of the resources. I just recommend the official documentation. So official documentation of React.js by Facebook is pretty good. So go through that and try to follow along on your local system. So this is how you learn React. Maybe the 15 days are enough for React, for you to know the React beginner or intermediate advanced from the documentation itself. One more practice which I want to tell you. A lot of people, they try to look for the resources on internet, but they don't go to the official documentation. In order to be a good web developer, you should love the official documentation and you should try to follow that. If I'm working on a technology, let's say Ruby on Rails or Node.js, so my first point of source, like first source of truth for me is official documentation or the API docs, right? So adapt to it, right? Go through the official documentation and understand it. Yes, it seems sometimes it's very boring, but it's really helpful and it's more detailed compared to any other information out there on the internet, right? So now you know React, you know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The next thing is knowing the databases, MySQL and MongoDB. For MySQL, the Stanford course, it's very good. in order to understand the basic or the core concepts of databases, how to execute the complex queries. I've mentioned a link down there. And also for a NoSQL database like MongoDB, official documentation is enough. So just follow that. And then knowing the ORM. So ORM depends on the technology, or let's say what backend technology you are using. So based on that, you need to decide the ORM. Right? So I'm not covering the ORM part of it, but in general, you know all the front-end technologies, you know the databases, then you can move to the backend one. So I recommend Node.js currently. It's a good one to start with. I've mentioned few links out there for the Node.js. So first start with the official documentation, because core concepts you can gather from there. And there's some YouTube channels which I'm mentioning for the Node.js. And what is the one thing that I want to tell you, like when you're learning anything new, and when you so you look around on YouTube, you see some TED Talks, right? So what is the key thing that I used to do? I used to watch Google I/O a lot, and I used to follow few people from out there. Like when you see a TED Talk, try to see the background of a person, try to follow their GitHubs, try to see their Stack Overflow. So how it helps you? It helps you to actually see like how that person used to code. You can just go to their GitHub and see what convention he used to follow, or what's the different thing he's trying to do differently compared to you, right? So for me, my favorite was Paul Irish, which is one of the Google software developer. So I recommend you to check his website as well, paulirish.com. He is one of the core contributor for Chrome, and there's also a YouTube channel called Google Chrome Developers. Yeah, follow that as well. Right? So I think this is in general one advice for you, and then you can also spend some time in learning Python. Right? So if I tell you Python, there is an ebook online available out there, How to Think Like Computer Scientist in Python. That's a great book. I think you need to spend nearly 10 days to learn Python. If you're starting from beginner, you don't have any background, I did it in a single day. So this scripting languages like Ruby, Python is very simple to learn. I think there are very few core concepts. It doesn't take much more time. So learning Python, just use that book and try to execute code parallelly. And also follow my channel for awesome sources on Python, because I'm planning to come up with one video on how you can learn Python by building a search engine. That will give you an exposure of how Python usage happen in the real world in terms of packages and modules and asynchronous programming. So this is the entire learning roadmap. Right? Now, if I just summarize, there is HTML, CSS, JavaScript, databases, and then you have backend technologies, Node.js and Python. So Node.js mostly for the API building. You can choose one of the framework called Express or maybe Loopback, and then you have Python. So Python can be used for scripting or maybe like any other task which you feel. Maybe it can be used for web development, but I think for web development you try to use Node.js, and Python can be used for generally like cron jobs, some data analysis, and all sort of tasks to automate things. So this is whole the learning roadmap. The next thing I'm going to talk about is one of the important tip is help others to get help yourself. So there are different Facebook groups around web development. There is Stack Overflow where you can see like questions out there. So try to answer at least 2 questions every day. Now when you answer like other people's question, you try to give your best, right? And in that way you also learn like 2 new things every day. So in a year you can see you will be nearly learning around like more than 700 different problems, right? So try to answer people. So if you choose Facebook, you can choose different groups to join and just see which of the active group and try to answer people. Similarly in Stack Overflow, you can follow different tags like for HTML, CSS, JavaScript or React, like whatever technologies, key technologies you learn, and you can answer people. So helping others to get help yourself is very important, which I used to follow in my early days of development. Now, the fourth one is how you can keep polishing your skill, right? So when you learn something, right, if you just follow the documentation, if you just follow the videos, that's not gonna help you. So main thing is, when you want to polish your skill, is to have a hobby project, right? So I have done 50 hobby projects. Now why I have done it? Just to learn something new. So when I see I want to learn Python, right? So I decided, let's do something, let's automate something, right? So I can give you a few examples. Let's say every day I wake up, right? When I used to log into my system, there is some set of task which I need to do every day. Let's say logging into my VPN, opening the terminal, or let's say opening some monitoring tools and opening different browser tabs for logging into my like Gmail, my workspace, some different things, right? So every day I cannot do this, right? So what I did, I wrote a Python bot to do that for me. I just click on it and everything happens, right? So this was a real-time problem which I was facing. I think there is a lot more problems we face every day. So, but if we try to apply our learning in something which can be useful for us, right? So in that way, you will actually learn technology much more deeper, right? You understand the usage, and you will feel more excited learning the next one, right? So this is my fourth point. How you can polish your skills is just by following your hobby projects. Keep doing your hobby projects. It doesn't matter, right? And we'll keep build your portfolio. So this is the fourth one, right? So what is the fifth one? How you can keep up to date with the latest trends and technologies. So there are different websites. One is a Hackertoon, which I personally recommend you to follow to see the latest updates on different technologies. Similarly, if you want to know what's happening around the world in terms of let's say startups, the TechCrunch is a good one. So you will know what different products people are building. So you will have understanding, and even you can follow the technology tags there, section there, where you will have more information. So this is how you can keep in touch. Similarly, for JavaScript, there is something called JavaScript Weekly. You can subscribe, so every week you will get updates on that. So yeah, and there are some other websites which you can follow to keep up to date with the latest trends in technology, which I've mentioned in the video description, so please check it out. So this is how the whole web development journey looks like. Now the important part of it is the next one, which is how you can monetize. We can monetize your skills. Right? When you learn something, when you have a bit of expertise in that, how you can monetize your skills using different platforms, and how I did. So now you become expert in all those technologies. So try to monetize your skills as well, because you work so hard. So there are different platforms where you can apply something like CodeMentor. Now Hackhands become Pluralsight. So previously there was a platform called Hackhands. So there's similar platforms like Shag. You can apply as a mentor, and thereby you will be helping a lot of candidates, and then also in turn you'll be making a lot of money out of it. So for me, I was one of the earliest Python expert on CodeMentor in 2014, and I have mentored nearly more than 500 people till now. I was pretty active in the initial days. If I show you my CodeDoctor, if you see my CodeDoctor journey, I was really active and I was able to make a good amount of money. If I say like in a week, sometimes it's like $300, sometimes it is like $800, sometimes it is $400. So overall, like in a month, like you can easily make like $2,500 with just one of the platform. If you sign up for two, you can make nearly 400. You can say like $4,000 per month, and that's a good amount of money, right? So basically, when you learn something, try to apply that knowledge and try to help people and try to help yourself. So that's how things work, right? So signing up for the platforms, like once you are expert, I've shared you the links in the video descriptions, like CodeMentor like platforms. You can check it out maybe once you become expert. So this is the whole video. I think if you find it useful, then please like. And if you want to follow me along in this journey, please subscribe. So this channel, as I mentioned, I want to help the college graduates in terms of interviews and web development. Please let me know what kind of topics you want to listen in the next videos, or what kind of information that you want, which I can share with you based on my experience in the industry. points.